Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Nirasha Malisak-Lamia.
And I'm Wina Jongprasit. It's Thursday, the 3rd of October, and we will start first with Thailand, Kunirasha,
Yes.
as the Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra yesterday instructed economic ministries and agencies to closely monitor the U.S. government shutdown, the U.S. quantitative easing, and the European economic situation. And that was for the possible detrimental impacts on Thailand's currency and exports in the rest of this year. The U.S. shutdown topped the agenda of the economic cabinet meeting. Also attending were the Bank of Thailand, the National Economic and Social Development Board, and the Board of Investment. Government spokesman Thirat Ratana Sewi said Yingluck was concerned about the rapid changes in external factors and their consequences on the economy, particularly on small and medium-sized enterprises. The NESDB and the Finance Ministry were assigned to form a working group to oversee small and medium enterprises. Deputy Prime Minister Kitirat Natlanong said after the meeting that exports and foreign exchange rates were crucial issues as the fourth quarter is normally the high season for Thailand's exports. The country aims to achieve 4% growth in shipments this year after managing only 1% growth in the first 8 months. External factors and the domestic floods are also our observation, he said. Most economists see limited direct impact from the U.S. shutdown, which has cut off funding from non-essential federal tasks since Tuesday. The center of attention now is the U.S. administration's negotiations with the Republicans for an increase in the $16.7 trillion US debt ceiling. Without approval by the middle of this month, the U.S. would default on its debts for the first time in its history. Under these circumstances, the U.S. Federal Reserve is widely expected to maintain its bond buying program at the current rate of $85 billion US a month to boost the economy. This will further propel liquidity into emerging markets and may boost the Thai stock market as well as the dollar-baht exchange rate as in the first 4 months of this year.
And according to the White House, due to the U.S. government shutdowns, President Barack Obama has cancelled the Malaysia and the Philippine legs of an upcoming trip to Asia. Obama's presence at 2 international summits with an Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC meet in Bali and the East Asia Summit in Brunei is still unsure. In separate statements, the White House said Secretary of State John Kerry will take the president's place in the visits to Malaysia and the Philippines instead. Obama had been due to travel to Bali for APEC, Brunei for the East Asia Summit, and then tour Malaysia and the Philippines. He was to leave on Saturday for the long week trip. And regarding to the Malaysia and the Philippine legs, National Security Council spokeswoman Kathleen Hayden said that logistically, it was not possible to go ahead with these trips in the face of a government shutdown. However, the trips can be rescheduled and Obama looks forward to going to both countries later in his second term. She added that there were no updates on Obama's attendance of the 2 summits.
And the Chinese President Xi Jinping is now on his first trip in Southeast Asia, and that is in Indonesia. And like its Asian peers, Japan and South Korea, China is seeking to strengthen its presence in the booming Indonesian economy. During his 2-day trip, Xi, who took power in March, will today become the first foreign leader to address the Indonesian parliament after a red carpet welcome in the capital Jakarta involving a military parade and brass band. The Chinese leader held talks with President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Both countries are very big. Both are developing countries, and we have great influence in the region and in the world, Xi told reporters after the meeting. Chinese and Indonesian ministers signed memoranda of understanding at the presidential palace to enhance cooperation in several industries, including tourism, technology, and space research. The Indonesian and Chinese central banks also agreed to a 100 billion yuan, or $16.3 billion US currency swap deal to shore up the ailing rupiah if necessary. The currency has fallen amid recent economic turmoil in Indonesia.
And in a related development, Chinese President Xi Jinping will also head to Malaysia today after his visit in Indonesia. With 2 days trade reaching a historic high over $94 billion last year, Malaysia and China trade ties will be high on Xi's agendas. The two countries are expected to unveil a 5-year economic plan to steer trade and economic cooperation to greater heights. Malaysia is the first Southeast Asian nation to establish diplomatic relations with China, and both countries have greatly benefited from the mutual trust and cooperation. China has overtaken the U.S. as Malaysia's largest trading partner in the last 4 years. Malaysia, on the other hand, has been China's biggest trading partner in Southeast Asia in the last 5 years, and it looks set to become China's third largest trading partner in Asia, with bilateral trade topping $100 billion. The two countries are trying to take that relationship further with President Xi's 3-day visit to Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur and Beijing are expected to sign a host of agreements, including a 5-year economic blueprint to develop 11 key sectors ranging from agriculture, manufacturing and infrastructure to education and tourism. Dr. Michael Yeo, Chief Executive Officer of Asian Strategy and Leadership Institute, elaborated that there is a 5-year economic cooperation plan between Malaysia and China that is supposed to be signed during the president's visit, and that will lay out the visions and the strategy of both countries in deepening the bilateral economic and trade relations. As Beijing pursues its Chinese dream to rejuvenate its nations of over 1.3 billion, Malaysia will be hoping not just to increase exports to China, but also to attract more Chinese tourists and investors into the country to boost its economy.
After the break, connectivity among the APEC member countries are expected to spur trade. Chairman of the APEC Business Advisory Council, Visnu Wadarna, said that yesterday the rising of connectivity among the APEC member countries was expected to encourage trade integration in the Asia-Pacific region. The chairman said that the hike of connectivity would encourage small and medium enterprises to contribute on the economic growth in the region. He said that besides private sector supported by strong financial system was also expected to give contribution on the growth through development of infrastructure. Deputy of Commerce and Entrepreneurship at Coordinating Minister for Economy, Edi Putra Irawadi, said that he was optimistic that Indonesia will become one of the centers of trade and commerce in the region. He said that Indonesia had good quality of export products, and some areas in the country had potential of producing export products. He was quoted by Investor Online as saying in Bali that Bali is one of the examples of the areas which have good quality of products for exports. Bali is now a center of marketing, he said. Well, Eddie said that Indonesia had been committed to continuously create young entrepreneurs, boost business, and widening access for capitals and technology. He said that APEC member countries have already set up an agreement saying that businessmen from the countries will be able to get access of capital easily.
And Philippine Foreign Department spokesperson Raul Hernandez said that the President Benigno Aquino III will not be speaking to his Chinese counterpart regarding the prevailing territorial disputes between the two countries. Hernandez said yesterday at a media briefing for Aquino's upcoming trips to Indonesia and Brunei that there might be 1 or 2 bilaterals at APEC, but this is still being finalized. There are no arrangements for bilaterals with China, despite his attending 2 regional summits this month. President Benigno Aquino III is set to attend the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation's or APEC Leaders Week in Bali, Indonesia from October 7 to 8, to be followed by the 23rd ASEAN Summit and related summits in Brunei Dar es Salaam from October 9 to 10. Hernandez said that the possibility of a bilateral meeting with China never came up as the territorial dispute is being handled in different ways. For example, the COC or Code of Conduct in the South China Sea is being addressed at the ASEAN meetings, and the issue of the resolutions of dispute is being addressed in the Philippines Arbitral Tribunal. The spokesperson added that despite the territorial dispute, the 2 countries are working to have a meaningful relationship with each other. Meanwhile, Hernandez revealed that the ASEAN and China have met for the first time to potentially discuss the contentious COC. He said that both sides was able to appoint a working group to study the potential of COC.
And going to the flood situation in Thailand, Kunirchai, as there are 25 provinces, mostly in the north, northeast, and the east of Thailand, remain flooded, though the situation is improving, said the Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation. Seasonal flooding, which has hit 32 provinces since September 17, has affected 2.86 million people and left 27 dead, said Chatchai Promlet, the Director General of the department. He added that floodwaters have damaged 14,405 houses, 2.12 million rise of farmlands, 4,899 roads, 197 bridges, and 516 dikes. Of the 32 provinces affected by flooding, the situation has eased in 7, including Kanchanaburi, Chumphon, Prachuap Khiri Khan, Nakhon Ratchasima, Kalasin, Phayao, and Mae Hong Son. Among the 25 provinces still suffering, 21 have been hit by flash floods and 4 others, Ayutthaya, Ang Thong, Singburi, and Suphanburi, by overflowing rivers. In general, the situation has improved. Water levels have receded in many areas, although there is still flooding in low-lying areas and areas along riverbanks, Chatchai said. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra said yesterday she had instructed provincial authorities and the Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation to survey the flood damage so that compensation could be paid to those affected. Yingluck said the government was ready to compensate victims according to levels of damage suffered, but she declined to confirm whether the flat rate of 5,000 baht paid to victims of the 2011 flood crisis would be repeated. The Prime Minister said she wanted to see more integration among the state agencies responsible for tackling the flood crisis. Meanwhile, Public Health Minister Pradit Sinthawarnarong said that he instructed the management of 157 hospitals at risk of flooding in 10 northern and northeastern provinces to work to their best of their ability to safeguard their hospitals.
And in Myanmar Focus Daily today, we're going to have a look at the future of Myanmar from agricultural to manufacturing state.
According to Myanmar presidential advisors on economics, the future of Myanmar is to be the responsive state focusing on manufacturing. However, Myanmar is currently an agricultural-based country. Agriculture accounts for more than 30% of the GDP and employs around 2/3 of the labor force. How is Myanmar going to move from the focus in agriculture to manufacturing? Let's hear more in this special interview. In your presentation, you said that the future of Myanmar will be the responsive state focusing on manufacturing. Is this the best option for Myanmar, in your opinion? Why don't Myanmar focusing on agriculture?
Yeah, well, we already focus a lot on agriculture, and then we are also, well, when I say manufacturing I meant more for value added.
Could you elaborate more on the
Yeah,
on the
value
concept?
added means we need to add values to whatever we produce. For example, like agriculture, we also should add values to it. So we are not just producing raw materials and unprocessed food, and we sell it to the other countries. We should also develop processed food, and then we try to package it, and then we try to export it. So this is where we can actually work together with other ASEAN countries, you know, like Thailand. You have the best packaging industry, and marketing is very good, so that we have a good food. So all we have to do is to add value to our food by having cooperation with the ASEAN members, and then we can export very good things to the rest of the world. So I think this is where we need to move from the raw material producing country into more producer of the value-added products.
What is Myanmar currently doing in terms of transforming the country into a responsive state, I would say?
Well, in order to be responsive externally, we got to be responsive internally. So I think this is where we are very busy to become more democratic, more participatory, and more pluralistic society within our own borders. And then the government is also trying very hard to be a responsible and responsive government to its own people. Once we become responsive and responsible, it will be just an automatic extension of that to the outside world. So I think in a way we don't, well, at least personally to me, I don't believe that we can be responsive and responsible to the outside while we are still not giving that kind of attitude to our own people. So I think that is maybe the central character of the ASEAN governance. So we are also hoping that we can contribute to make the ASEAN more responsive and responsible, both internally and externally.
That's wrap up Good Morning ASEAN editions for today. See you again, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you so much for watching, and we now jump proceed.
And I am Nirasha Malisak Lamni. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ